Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Today we celebrate the poetry of Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda, 1904-1973, was born in Chile. Neruda was a lyric poet, a writer of love sonnets, an epic poet, a poet of everyday objects, a poet known for his odes. He was, like Whitman, a poet of the people. He was a communist, a diplomat, a senator. Some of his themes are camaraderie, death, love, loss, country. Eileen Stavis's introduction to the poetry of Pablo Neruda includes this. I have always wanted the hands of people to be in poetry, Pablo Neruda wrote in 1966. Then he added, I have always preferred a poetry where the fingerprints show, a poetry of loam where water can sing, a poetry of bread where everyone may eat. End of quote. This intuitive connection to the masses was a feature of his oeuvre from early on in his career. Neruda continues in the introduction. In 1935, in a manifesto called Towards an Impure Poetry, quote, it is useful at certain hours of the day and night to look closely at the world of objects at rest, wheels that have crossed long dusty spaces with their huge vegetal and mineral burdens, bags of coal from the coal bins, barrels, baskets, handles, and halves in a carpenter's tool chest. From them flow the contacts of man with the earth, like an object lesson for all troubled lyricists. The used surfaces of things, the wear that hands have given to things, the air, tragic at times, pathetic at others, of such things, all lend a curious attractiveness to reality that we should not underestimate. End of quote. Neruda won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. The outstanding readers in order of appearance are Helen Richman, Toni Sawyer, Kay Weissman, Guerin Barry. Here's Helen Richman.
Ode to Federico Garcia Lorca. If I could weep with fear in a solitary house, if I could take out my eyes and eat them, I would do it for your black-draped orange tree voice and for your poetry that comes forth shouting. Because for you, they paint hospitals bright blue, and schools and sailors' quarters grow, and wounded angels are covered with feathers, and nuptial fish are covered with scales, and hedgehogs go flying to the sky. For you, tailor shops with their black skins fill up with spoons and blood, and swallow red ribbons and kiss each other to death, and dress in white. When you fly dressed as a peach tree, when you laugh with a laugh of hurricaned rice, when to sing you shake arteries and teeth, throat, and fingers. Oh, I could die for how sweet you are. I could die for the red lakes where in the midst of autumn you live with a fallen steed and a bloodied god. I could die for the cemeteries that pass like ash-gray rivers with water and tombs at night among drowned bells, rivers as thick as wards of sick soldiers that suddenly grow toward death in rivers with marble numbers and rotted crowns and funeral oils. I could die to see you at night, watching the sunken crosses go by, standing and weeping, because before death's river you weep forlornly, woundedly. You weep, weeping, your eyes filled with tears, with tears, with tears. If at night, wildly alone, I could gather oblivion and shadow and smoke above railroads and steamships with a black funnel, biting the ashes, I would do it for the tree in which you grow, for the nests of golden waters that you gather, and for the vine that covers your bones, revealing to you the secret of the night. Cities with a smell of wet onions wait for you to pass, singing raucously, and silent sperm boats pursue you, and green swallows rest in your hair, and also snails and weeks, furled masts on cherry trees, definitively walk about when they glimpse your pale 15-eyed head and your mouth of submerged blood. If I could fill town halls with soot and sobbing tear-down clocks, it would be to see when to your house comes summer with its broken lips, come many people with dying clothes, come regions of sad splendor, come dead plows and poppies, come gravediggers and horsemen, come planets and maps with blood, come buzzards covered with ashes, come masked men dragging damsels pierced by great knives, come roots, veins, hospitals, springs, ants, comes night with a bed where a solitary hussar is dying among the spiders, comes a rose of hatred and pins, comes a yellowish vessel, comes a windy day with a child, come I with Oliverio, Nora, Vicente Alexandre, Delia, Maruca, Malva Marina, Maria Luisa and Larco the Blonde, Rafael Ugarte, Cotapos, Rafael Alberti, Carlos, Bebe, Manolo Altaguirre, Molinari, Rosales, Concha Mentes, and others that slip my mind. Come, let me crown you, youth of health and butterflies, youth pure as a black lightning flash, perpetually free, and just between you and me. Now, when there is no one left among the rocks, let us speak simply man to man. What are verses for if not for the dew? What are verses for if not for that night in which a bitter dagger finds us out? For that day, for that dusk, for that broken corner where the beaten heart of man makes ready to die. Above all, at night there are many stars, and all within a river, like a ribbon next to the windows of houses filled with the poor. Someone of theirs has died. Perhaps they have lost their jobs in the offices, in the hospitals, in the elevators, in the mines. Human beings suffer stubbornly wounded, and there are protests and weeping everywhere. While the stars flow within an endless river, there is much weeping at the windows. The thresholds are worn away by the weeping. The bedrooms are soaked by the weeping that comes wave-shaped to bite the carpets. Federico, you see the world, the streets, the vinegar, the farewells in the stations when the smoke lifts its decisive wheels toward where there is nothing but some separations, stones, railroad tracks. There are so many people asking questions everywhere. There is the bloody blind man and the angry one and the disheartened one and the wretch, the thorn tree, the bandit with envy on his back. That's the way life is, Federico. Here you have the things that my friendship can offer you, the friendship of a melancholy, manly man. By yourself, you already know many things, and others you will slowly get to know. There is no oblivion. Sonata. If you ask me where I've been, I must say, it so happens, I must speak of the ground that the stones darken, of the river that enduring is destroyed. I know only the things that the birds lose, the sea left behind, or my sister weeping. Why so many regions? Why does a day join a day? Why does a black night gather in the mouth? Why dead people? If you ask me where I come from, I have to converse with broken things, with utensils bitter to excess, with great beasts frequently rotted, and with my anguished heart. Those that have crossed paths are not memories, nor is the yellowish dove that sleeps in oblivion. They are faces with tears, fingers at the throat, and what falls down from the leaves, the darkness of a day gone by, of a day nourished with our sad blood. Here are violets, swallows, everything that pleases us, and that appears in the sweet calling cards around which stroll time and sweetness. But let us not penetrate beyond those teeth. Let us not bite the shells that silence gathers, because I do not know what to answer. There are so many dead, so many seawalls that the red sun split, and so many heads that beat against the ships, and so many hands that have cradled kisses, and so many things that I want to forget. Waltz. I touch hatred like a daily breast. I, ceaseless from clothes to clothes, come sleeping far away. I am not. I am no good. I don't know anyone. I have no weapons of sea or of wood. I do not live in this house. With night and water, my mouth is filled. The durable moon determines what I do not have. What I do have is in the midst of the waves, a thunderbolt of water, a day for me, an iron bottom. There is no countersea, no shield, no suit. There is no special unfathomable solution or vicious eyelid. I live suddenly, and at other times I follow. I suddenly touch a face, and it murders me. I have no time. Do not seek me, then, drawing back the customary savage thread of the sanguinary vine. Do not call me. That is my occupation. Do not ask my name or my estate. Leave me in the midst of my own moon, in my wounded terrain. San Martin, 1810. San Martin. From so much walking place to place, I discarded your uniform, your spurs, knowing that someday, walking the roads made for returning, in the limits of the Cordillera, in the purity of the elements we inherited from you, we'd see one another sooner or later. It's hard to differentiate amid the mahogany's knots, amid roots, to see your face amid the footpaths, to distinguish your gaze amid the birds, to find your existence in the air. You're the land you gave us, a branch of cedron with an aroma that stuns. We cannot place it. We don't know where the smell of the meadows in the homeland comes from. We gallop you, San Martin, early in the morning. We rise to traverse your body, to inhale acres of your shade, to build campfires upon your stature. You're vast among all the heroes. Others traveled from table to table, a cloud of dust on the crossroads. You were made of remote parts, and we've begun to see your geography, your wide open spaces, your territory. The more time disperses like eternal water the clumps of bitterness, the bonfire's keen disclosures, the more terrain you'll comprise, the more the seeds of your tranquility will cover the hills, the more you'll extend the springtime. The man who builds then becomes the smoke of all he built. No one's reborn of his own consumed fire. He turned his dying flame to vital spark. He died away and turned to dust. You embraced more space in your death. Your death was like a silent granary. Your life and other lives passed on. Doors were opened, walls were raised, the spike of grain was sown again. San Martin, other captains shine brighter than you with their embroidered tendrils of phosphorescent salt. Others still speak like waterfalls, but there's none like you, clothed in earth and solitude, in snow and clover. We meet you returning from the river. We greet you in the agrarian manner of flowering Tucuman. And on the roads we cross you on horseback, galloping and raising your vestments, dusty forefather. Today, the sun and the moon, the great wind, mature your stock, your simple composition. Your truth was an earthen truth, a gritty mixture stable as bread, a fresh sheet of clay and grain, pure pampa. To this day, you remain moon and gallop, a soldier's season in clemency, where we're waging war again, traveling the towns and prairies, establishing your earthy truth, disseminating your spacious germ, winnowing the pages of wheat. So be it. And let there be no peace until we've entered your spirit after combat. And you can sleep the measure we've found in your expanse of germinating peace.
The invisible man. I laugh. I smile at the old poets and love all the poetry they wrote. All the dew, moon, diamond, drops of submerged silver with which my elder brother adorned the rose, but I smile. They always say I. At every turn, something happens. It's always I. Only they, or the dear heart they love, walk through the streets. Only they. No fishermen pass by, or booksellers. No masons pass by. No one falls from scaffolding. No one suffers. No one loves except my poor brother, the poet. Everything happens to him and his dear beloved. No one lives but him. Him alone. No one weeps from hunger or from anger. In his poems, no one suffers because he can't pay the rent. In poetry, no one is ever thrown into the street with all his furniture, and nothing happens in the factories. No, nothing. No, nothing. Umbrellas and goblets are manufactured. Weapons and locomotives, oars are mined by scraping hell. There is a strike. Soldiers come and fire. They fire against the people, which is to say, against poetry. But my brother, the poet, was in love or was suffering because all his emotion is for the sea. He loves remote ports for their names. And he writes about oceans he doesn't know. When life is as full as an ear of corn with grain, he passes by, never knowing how to harvest it. He rides the waves without ever touching land. And occasionally, he is profoundly moved and melancholy. He is too big to fit inside his skin. He gets tangled and untangles himself. He declares he is maudit. With great difficulty, he carries the cross of darkness. He believes that he is different from anyone else in the world. He eats bread every day, but he's never seen a baker or gone to a meeting of a bakers' union. And so my poor brother is deliberately dark. He twists and writhes and finds himself interesting. Interesting, that's the word. I am no better than my brother, but I smile because when I walk through the streets, the only one who does not exist, life flows around me like rivers. I am the only one who is invisible. No mysterious shadows, no gloom and darkness. Everyone speaks to me. Everyone wants to tell me things, talk about their relatives, their misery and their joy. Everyone passes by and everyone tells me something. Look at all the things they do. They cut wood, string electric lines, bake bread late into the night, our daily bread. With an iron pick, they pierce the entrails of the earth and convert the iron into locks. They climb into the sky and carry letters and sobs and kisses. Someone is standing in every doorway. Someone is being born, or the one I love is waiting for me. And as I walk by, things ask me to sing them. But I haven't time. I must think about everything. I must go home, go by the party office. What can I do? Everything asks me to speak. Everything asks me to sing. Sing forever. Everything is saturated with dreams and sound. Life is a box filled with songs. The box opens and a flock of birds flies out and wants to tell me something, perching on my shoulders. Life is a struggle. And I sleep like a log. I am in. Life is a struggle, like the advancing river, and men want to tell you why they struggle, and if they die, why they die. And I walk by, and I haven't time for so many lives. I want them all to live through my life. I sing through my song. I am not important. I have no time for my own affairs. Night and day, I must write down what's happening, not forgetting anyone. It's true that suddenly I get tired. I look at the stars. I lie down on the grass and insect the color of a violin goes by. I place my arm across the small breast or beneath the waist of the woman I love, and I look at the hard velvet of the night trembling with frozen constellations. Then I feel a wave of mysteries rising in my soul. Childhood, weeping in corners, melancholy adolescence. I feel sleepy. Everyone passes by with something, and I sleep like a log. I am immediately asleep, with or without the stars, with or without my love. And when I get up, the night is gone. The street has awakened before me. The poor girls of the neighborhood are on their way to work. Fishermen are returning from the sea. Miners in new shoes are going down into the mines. Everything's alive. Everyone's hurrying to and fro, and I scarcely have time to get into my clothes. I must run. No one must pass by without my knowing where he's going, what he's doing. I cannot live without life, without man's being man. And I run and look and listen and sing. Stars have nothing to do with me. Solitude bears no flowers, no fruit. For my life, give me all lives. Give me all the sorrow of all the world. And I will transform it into hope. Give me all the joys, even the most secret. For if not, how will they be known? I must tell them, give me the daily struggle, because these things are my song. And so we will go together, shoulder to shoulder, all men. My song unites them, the song of the invisible man who sings with all men. Ode to the artichoke. The tender-hearted artichoke, dressed in its armor, built its modest cupola and stood erect, impenetrable beneath a lamina of leaves. Around it, maddened vegetables, ruffling their leaves, contrived creepers, cattails, bulbs, and tubers to astound. Beneath the ground slept the red-whiskered carrot. Above, the grapevine dried its runners, bearers of the wine. The cabbage presented itself, preened itself, arranging its flounces. Oregano perfumed the world, while the gentle artichoke stood proudly in the garden, clad in armor, burnished to a pomegranate glow. And then, one day, with all the other artichokes in willow baskets, our artichoke set out to market to realize its dream, life as a soldier. Amid the ranks, never was it so martial. To its delights, as in the fair, white-haired men among the greens marshaled the field of artichokes. Close formations shouted commands and the detonation of falling crate. But look, here comes Maria with her shopping basket. Unintimidated, she selects our artichoke, examines it, holds it to the light as if it were an egg. She buys it. She drops it in a shopping bag that holds a pair of shoes, a cabbage head, and one bottle of vinegar. Once home and in the kitchen, she drowns it in a pot. And thus ends in peace the saga of the armored vegetable we call the artichoke. As leaf by leaf, we unsheathe its delights and eat the peaceable flesh of its green heart. Ode to my suit. Every morning, suit, you are waiting on a chair to be filled by my vanity, my love, my hope, my body. Still only half awake, I leave the shower to shrug into your sleeves. My legs seek the hollow of your legs, and thus, embraced by your unfailing loyalty, I take my morning walk. Work my way into my poetry. From my windows, I see the things. men, women, events, and struggles constantly shaping me, constantly confronting me, setting my hands to the task, opening my eyes, creasing my lips, and in the same way, suit. I am shaping you, poking out your elbows, wearing you threadbare, and so your life grows in the image of my own. In the wind, you flap and hum as if you were my soul. In bad moments, you cling to my bones, abandoned. At nighttime, darkness and dream, people with their phantoms, your wings and mine. I wonder whether someday an enemy bullet will stain you with my blood, for then you would die with me. But perhaps it will be less dramatic, simple, that you will grow ill, suit with me, grow older with me, with my body, and together we will be lowered into the earth. That's why every day I greet you with respect, and then you embrace me, and I forget you. Because we are one being, we shall be always in the wind. The streets and the struggle, one body. But maybe one day, still.
Ode to the Dictionary. Back like an ox, beast of burden, orderly, thick book. As a youth, I ignored you. Wrapped in my smugness, I thought I knew it all. And as puffed up as a melancholy toad, I proclaimed, I receive my words in a loud, clear voice directly from Mount Sinai. I shall convert forms to alchemy. I am the Magus. The great Magus said nothing. The dictionary, old and heavy in its scruffy leather jacket, sat in silence, its resources unrevealed. But one day, after I'd used it and abused it, after I'd called it useless, an anachronistic camel, when for months, without protest, it had served me as a chair and a pillow, it rebelled, and planting its feet firmly in my doorway, expanded, shook its leaves and nests, and spread its foliage. It was a tree, a natural, bountiful apple blossom, apple orchard, apple tree, and words glittered in its infinite branches, opaque or sonorous, fertile in the fronds of language, charged with truth and sound. I turn its pages, capital, capote. Oh, what a marvel to pronounce these plosive syllables. And further on, capsule, unfulfilled, awaiting ambrosia or oil. And others, capsicum, caption, capture, comparison, Capricorn. Words as slippery as smooth grapes. Words exploding in the light like dormant seeds, waiting in the vaults of vocabulary, alive again and giving life. Once again, the heart distills them. Dictionary. You are not a tomb, sepulchre, grave, tumulus, mausoleum, but guard and keeper, hidden fire, groves of rubies, living eternity of essence, depository of language. How wonderful to read in your columns ancestral words, the severe and long forgotten maxim, daughter of Spain, petrified as a plow blade, as limited in use as an antiquated tool, but preserved in the precise beauty and immutability of a medallion. Or another word we find hiding between the lines that suddenly seems as delicious and smooth on the tongue as an almond, or tender as a fig. Dictionary. Let one hand of your 1,000 hands, one of your 1,000 emeralds, a single drop of your virginal springs, one grain from your magnanimous granaries fall at the perfect moment upon my lips, onto the tip of my pen, into my inkwell. From the depths of your dense and reverberating jungle, grant me, at the moment it is needed, a single bird song, the luxury of one bee, one splinter of your ancient wood perfumed by eternity of jasmine, one syllable, one tremor, one sound, one seed. I am the earth, and with words I sing. Ode to the Seagull. To the seagull, high above the pine woods of the coast, on the wind, the sibilant syllable of my ode. Sail, bright boat, winged banner in my verse. Stitch, body of silver, your emblem across the shirt of the icy firmament. O aviator, gentle serenade of flight, snow arrow, serene ship in the transparent storm. Steady you soar while the hoarse wind sweeps the meadows of the sky. After your long voyage, feathered magnolia, triangle borne aloft in the air, slowly you regain your form, arranging your silvery robes, shaping your bright treasure in an oval. Again, a white bud of flight, a round seed, egg of beauty. Another poet would end here his triumphant ode. I cannot limit myself to the luxurious whiteness of useless froth. Forgive me, seagull. I am a realist poet, photographer of the sky. You eat and eat and eat. There is nothing you don't devour in the waters of the bay. You bark like a beggar's dog. You pursue the last scrape of fish gut. You peck at your white sisters. You steal your despicable prize, a rotting clump of floating garbage. You stalk decayed tomatoes, the discarded rubbish of the cove. But in you, it's transformed into clean wing, white geometry, like ecstatic line of flight. That is why, snowy anchor, aviator, I celebrate you as you are, your insatiable voraciousness, your screech in the rain or at rest, a snowflake blown from the storm, at peace or in flight. Seagull, I consecrate to you my earthbound words, my clumsy attempt at flight. Let's see whether you scatter your bird seed in my ode. Ode to an aged poet. He offered me his hand the way an old tree might extend a broken branch, stripped of leaves and fruit. The hand that once wrote, spinning the thread and strands of destiny, now was intricately scored by days, months, and years. Sear on his face was the writing of time, minute and meandering as if the lines and signs had been ordained at birth. And little by little, air had etched them. Long, deep lines, chapters carved in his face by age, question marks, mysterious tales, asterisks, all that the sirens had forgotten in the far-reaching solitude of his soul. All that fell from the starry sky was traced in his face. Never had the ancient bard captured with pen and unyielding paper the overflowing river of life, or the unidentified god that flirted with his verse. And now, on his cheeks, all that mystery, coldly drafted, the algebra of its revelations. And the humble, unchanging things he had scorned, imprinted on his brow their most profound pages. And even on his nose, thin as the beak of the errant cormorgan, voyages and waves had sketched their ultramarine scrawl. 2 unfriendly pebbles, 2 ocean agates in that combat were his eyes. And only through them did I see the extinguished fire, a rose in the poet's hands. Now his suit was much too large, as if he were already living in an empty house. And all the bones of his body were visible beneath his skin, skin draped on bone. He was nothing but bone, alert and instructive bone, a tiny tree, finally a bone, was the poet, quenched by the calligraphy of the rain, by the inexhaustible springs of time. There I left him, hurrying towards death, as if death awaited. She too, almost naked, in a somber park, and hand in hand they would make their way to a decaying resting place where they would sleep as every man of us will sleep, with a dry rose in a hand that will also crumble into dust.
"101 years ago, Pablo Neruda published 100 love sonnets. He was 19 years old, and it was his second published work. My information is that it sold 20 million copies, and it's still in publication 100 years later. I will not be reading all 100 love sonnets this morning, and I am not 19 years old. Number 4, they're all numbered. You will remember that leaping stream where sweet aromas rose and trembled, and sometimes a bird wearing water and slowness its winter feathers. You will remember those gifts from the earth, indelible scents, gold clay, weeds in the thicket, and crazy roots, magical thorns like swords. You'll remember the bouquet you picked, shadows and silent water, bouquet like a foam-covered stone. That time was like never and like always. So we go there, where nothing is waiting. We find everything waiting there. Number 9. There, where the waves shatter on the restless rocks, the clear light bursts and enacts its rose, and the sea circle shrinks to a cluster of buds, to one drop of blue salt falling. O bright magnolia bursting in the foam, magnetic, transient, whose death blooms and vanishes, being nothingness, forever broken, salt, dazzling lurch of the sea. You and I, love, together, we ratify the silence, while the sea destroys its perpetual statues, collapses its towers of wild speed and whiteness, because in the weavings of those invisible fabrics, galloping water, incessant sand, we make the only permanent tenderness. Number 11. I crave your mouth, your voice, your hair. Silent and starving, I prowl through the streets. Bread does not nourish me. Dawn disrupts me. All day I hunt for the liquid measure of your steps. I hunger for your sleek laugh, your hands the color of a savage harvest. Hunger for the pale stones of your fingernails. I want to eat your skin like a whole almond. I want to eat the sunbeam flaring in your lovely body, the sovereign nose of your arrogant face. I want to eat the fleeting shade of your lashes, and I pace around hungry, sniffing the twilight, hunting for you, for your hot heart, like a puma in the barrens of Kitratue. Number 16. I love the handful of the earth you are. Because of its meadows, vast as a planet, I have no other star. You are my replica of the multiplying universe. Your wide eyes are the only light I know from extinguished constellations. Your skin throbs like the streak of a meteor through the rain. Your hips were that much of the moon for me. Your deep mouth and its delights, that much sun. Your heart, fiery with its long red rays, was that much ardent light, like honey in the shade. So I pass across your burning form, kissing you, compact and planetary, my dove, my globe. Number 17. I don't love you as if you were a rose of salt, topaz, or arrow of carnations that propagate fire. I love you as one loves certain dark things, secretly, between the shadow and the soul. I love you as the plant that doesn't bloom and carries the light of those flowers hidden within itself, and thanks to your love, the tight aroma that rose from the earth lives in my body in darkness. I love you without knowing how or when or from where. I love you directly, without problems or pride. I love you like this because I don't know any other way to love, except in this form, in which I am not, nor are you, so close that your hand upon my chest is mine, so close that your eyes close with my dreams. Number 47. I want to look back and see you in the branches. Little by little, you turned into fruit. It was easier for you to rise from the roots, singing your syllable of sap. Here you will be a fragrant flower first, changed to the statuesque form of a kiss, till the sun and the earth, blood and the sky fulfill their promises of sweetness and pleasure in you. There in the branches, I will recognize your hair, your image ripening in the leaves, bringing the petals nearer my thirst, and my mouth will fill with the taste of you, the kiss that rose from the earth with your blood, the blood of a lover's fruit. Number 80. My love, I returned from travel and sorrow to your voice, to your hand flying on the guitar, to the fire interrupting the autumn with kisses, to the night that circles through the sky. I ask for bread and dominion for all. For the worker with no future, I ask for land. May no one expect my blood or my song to rest, but I cannot give up your love. not without dying. So, play the waltz of the tranquil moon, the barcarolle and the fluid guitar, till my head lolls, dreaming for all my life's sleeplessness has woven this shelter in the grove where your hand lives and flies, watching over the night of the sleeping traveler. Number 90. I thought I was dying. I felt the cold up close and knew that from all my life I left only you behind. My earthly day and night were your mouth, your skin, the republic my kisses founded. In that instant, the book stopped, and friendship, treasures restlessly amassed, the transparent house that you and I built, everything dropped away except your eyes. Because while life harasses us, love is only a wave taller than the other waves. But oh, when death comes knocking at the gate, there is only your glance against so much emptiness, only your light against extinction, only your love to shut out the shadows. Number 95. Whoever loved as we did? Let us hunt for the ancient cinders of a heart that burned and make our kisses fall one by one till that empty flower rises again. Let us love the love that consumed its fruit and went down its image and its power into the earth. You and I are the light that endures its irrevocable, delicate thorn. Bring to that love, entombed by so much cold time, by snow and spring, by oblivion and autumn, the light of a new apple, light of a freshness opened by a new wound, like that ancient love that passes in silence through an eternity of buried mouths. Finally, I'm going to read one entitled Poetry. And it was at that age, poetry arrived in search of me. I don't know. I don't know where it came from winter or a river. I don't know how or when. No, they were not voices. They were not words, not silence. But from a street it called me, from the branches of night, abruptly from the others, among raging fires, or returning alone. There it was, without a face, and it touched me. I didn't know what to say. My mouth had no way with names. My eyes were blind. Something knocked in my soul, fever or forgotten wings, and I made my own way, deciphering that fire. And I wrote the first faint line. Faint, without substance, pure nonsense, pure wisdom of someone who knows nothing. And suddenly, I saw the heavens, unfastened and open, planets, palpitating plantations, the darkness perforated, riddled with arrows, fire, and flowers, the overpowering night, the universe. And I, tiny being, drunk with the great starry void, likeness, image of mystery, felt myself a pure part of the abyss. I wheeled with the stars. My heart broke loose with the wind.
Thank you, Guerin, Helen, Toni, Kay, for such a marvelous reading of this great poetry. The one line that hit me was in number 80 that Guerin read, quote, "I ask for bread and dominion for all." And it seems to me that he spoke, I mean, it's obvious, not only for himself, but for all the people. And that's rare in our time. You know, in the old days, the epic poet, he told the tale of the tribe. And today poetry is so fragmented. It's rare when somebody can speak for the whole tribe. But let's each one of you say what you'd like. We each take about 30, 40 seconds each. Start with Guerin and then go to Helen, Toni, and Kay. Guerin, what would you like to say?
Well, of course, I was reading the poetry of a 19-year-old man, but I was very, very taken with one that Toni read about my suit. And I have felt that way.
Helen?
Oh, well, the first poem, his Ode to Lorca, and the last poem, San Martin. When I first read the Ode to Lorca, it took me a while to realize that almost the whole poem is using Lorca's poetry. So then I was able to understand what I was reading, but it really took me a while. And the last poem, San Martin, the metaphor is making a big, beautiful expanse of land into many human things. And so I then was able to read it. So my point is that for me, this is not a poet that you can quickly read and get it. But when you read it several times, it is extremely deep and meaningful. So I enjoyed it.
Toni?
I have to say his poetry is so deep for me. I have a hard time not getting totally so caught up in his words and the feelings I get from his words that I start going onto another planet. But I find him, he has a great appetite for life. He's almost a man for all seasons. He loves life, I think, is so important to him. As you were mentioning, Harry, his concern with other people, his desire for intimacy, I think death pervades so much of his poetry. Well, I've always loved him for many years. So I'm very happy to have been able to read this. Thank you.
Kay?
Well, I thought it's very emotional poetry, touched me deeply. And I was trying to read some of the poetry in Spanish. I'm not equipped to do it, but I could if I checked out every word. And I thought the translations were really wonderful because nothing was lost in the emotion. And that last poem that I read, the Ode to the Old Poet, really touched me deeply. I found myself crying at times when I read it out loud. And I don't know what that means.
You read I remember you read The Harlequin Rose by Diane Wachowski. Now you're reading The Rose That Turns into Dust.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
You know, the one line that was in number 9 that Guerin read, we make the only permanent tenderness. And that touched me. You know, that's I think to me, that's what we do here too. Mm-hmm. You know, the literary camaraderie that we have here certainly evokes those feelings within me that you all bring to the table. And also his love of country, his love of woman, love of his fellow poet, his heroes, you know, San Martin, the objects he writes about, they're also vivid in his poems. And I just wonder what is that ability that he has, or maybe it's just the country, you know, that he is emblematic, and the politics, the person, the country, the people, they're all bound up in one. And in America, so much, and not only in America, but so much of poetry is solipsistic. And people, as that poem that, who was it read about, I think, about the Ode, where, it's oh me, the invisible man that Toni read, like it's just me, 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 me. And so it's nice to see somebody, like Walt Whitman, who has ability to care for all of his countrymen and us too, many years later. So what else can we say about him? Guerin, what would you like to say? You're always very insightful, and as all of you are.
I'd just like to thank you for including me in this. I feel privileged to have been a part of it.
And one last thing I would like to say, Jennifer, that another thing that really touched me was a line where he says, "I love you like this because I don't know any other way to love." And we're all vulnerable, and we all are fearful, and we all reach in our pockets and put on the table what we have for each other. And that's what all of you have done here. And I'm grateful for all of you for your marvelous readings. And here's Jennifer Clymer to take us home.
I also wanted to acknowledge, Harry, this was a beautiful choice for today in particular. It's the anniversary of Holly Prado's passing. And the love that Harry and Holly shared, I think, is reflected in these poems, in certain of these poems, really beautifully.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I was thinking about saying something at the beginning, but I thought not to. But I remember one short poem that she wrote in one of her books, and it had a one-line text. And Chaplain Dina has that poem up on her wall in her office, and the title is "I Want to Be Somewhere Perfect." Okay, here I am.
Oh.
So here we are. We're someplace perfect, and we're here because Jennifer and all of the Creative Chaos team make it great for all of us to speak the words that from this great poet. And so this certainly is a transcendence for me, not only of love, but of death. And it's something we all have to deal with in our own way, and we all have dealt with it. So thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, my pleasure. Do you want to tell us what's coming up next week?
Next week, we're going to have a departure from poetry. We're going to have two prose writers. We're going to have the wonderful Diane McBain, a resident in the cottages, read from her newest published novel. And we're also going to have Aram Saroyan, a wonderful poet, read from a play of his. So, that play by Brecht, The Exception and the Rule, we're going to have the exception, and it'll be fun to listen to something that they have written. I admire them both very deeply.